This conference will now be recorded.
There we go. Third time's the charm, evidently.
Welcome. This is the Port Orford City Planning Commission, December 10th. It's 3:40. And we are in session. Take the roll. Commissioner Lawton?
Here.
Commissioner Boydston?
Present.
Commissioner Levendahl?
Present.
Commissioner Thielen is here. And Commissioner Oshauer has had a previous engagement on holiday. So she will join us in January. She communicated with us. Chair comments. Seemed like there was something I was going to say. Well, I say enough. Minutes for October 8th.
They should all be in the packet.
Okay, are there any corrections or additions or comments on the minutes from the October 8th meeting? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I so move. A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Commissioner Lawton,
Yes.
Commissioner Boydston,
Yes.
Commissioner Levendahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Thielen is a yes. Minutes for November 12th, 2024.
I move to approve the minutes. I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion? Commissioner Lawton,
Yes.
Commissioner Boydston,
Yes.
Commissioner Levendahl,
Yes.
Commissioner Thielen is a yes. Thank you. Public comments on agenda items only. Do we have anyone online or anyone who would like to make a comment on our agenda item? Then let's move on to item 6, planning matters, the DLCD grant items for discussion. Crystal, do you want to get us started on this?
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're moving along with this. The schedule now is that we will have our public hearing in February so that we don't get it all mixed up with Christmas mail when we do notice and things like that. And that will be at our regular February meeting. We will send out notices to the whole town before that. That's required for us to do. Then following our public hearings, the city council will have a public hearing as is required. And that, as far as I know right now, will be in April. Then in May, we're supposed to have this done. And if the city council wants to spend more time on it, they can. That doesn't hurt our grant. The thing is, we're supposed to have a hearing before the grant closes. So today, you see the packet that we have achieved so far, and I would like to think that we are reaching the end of our new information and just sorting this out to make sure that it says what we need it to say. I think the most important thing at this point is that you have your questions answered, and that if you continue to have questions and they're not answered, maybe there's something that we need to adjust in the code, the proposed code and things like that. I talked with Greg this morning, and our idea was just to kind of focus on some of the things that we thought were important, but that doesn't mean that we can't focus on something that you think is important. So that's probably the first question, and I'm just going to let Greg take it from here. As you have questions and comments and concerns, we should talk about those. And then if you don't have a bunch of questions and comments and concerns, there's other things that we still can talk about that we need to review.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. So I'm assuming we've all had a copy of these and we were able to look at them, dig in, find the weak spots. So this document starts off, I'll just kind of run us through it a little bit here. The document starts off with definitions, and of course the overview or one of the reasons for this whole thing was to come up to compliance with state law. So some of the definitions have changed, and I mean, we've been through that, but starting with definitions on page 1, I see definition of housing types, accessory dwelling unit. And I just noticed there's a little Scrivener error on A. On that, it says detached structures, freestanding accessory structures. I'm guessing that structures gets crossed out and it just says detached freestanding accessory structures.
That sounds better. Thank you.
Yeah, just a detail, but I noticed something I noticed.
So that
Yes.
would include a yurt or
I don't know if we can have yurts under state law.
yeah,
That
I'm
would
just
be,
wondering what that, it seems broad, freestanding structure. You could,
well, a structure that's freestanding would be, in other words, it's not an addition such as a garage that's been made into an ADU, or it's not some other room that was added onto the house that's been made into an ADU. It's a freestanding little house.
Yeah.
I get that. I'm just playing devil's advocate. If someone comes in once and says, I want an ADU, it says I can have a freestanding structure, I'm putting in a yurt. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm not opposed to yurts, but I just want to make sure that does this have to be something that's permanent?
Yes.
I think,
Does it have to have a certain, I just thought it was broad and you never know.
It has to be permanent or it wouldn't be an ADU, because an ADU is another dwelling unit.
Well, could a yurt be permanent?
Yes.
I think.
Well, I don't know. We've never talked about yurts before as something that we wanted. I know that the county doesn't allow them in a lot of places, but I don't know if that's a state law or something that we could look into. Is that something you guys have wanted in your neighborhoods?
Not necessarily. I'm just trying to,
The way
if this is
that-
going to put this out, I just want this to be
Yeah.
definitive.
The way that
Clear.
it looks to me is elsewhere in the ADU is subject to the building codes.
Right.
So I would say if a yurt was subject to the building codes as a dwelling, we're
Right.
good.
Yeah, I
So,
would too.
so we're not addressing that. We're just addressing what kind of a structure it is.
It does have to pertain to the building codes.
Yeah, it wouldn't bypass the building codes.
Right. And you can have a yurt.
A good question.
A yurt with a foundation.
And and we have a
Yeah.
lot of them in the state parks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They got electricity.
Mhm.
Okay,
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just wanted to have that discussion.
Yeah,
So
I agree with what Greg is saying, that if somebody wanted a yurt and they came to us and they wanted that as an ADU, we would tell them to go find out if it was acceptable under building codes.
Yeah. Okay, so turning the page. I mean, the only note I had was on the dwelling single unit family toward the bottom, that dwelling, that definition. I thought it was really nice language that said constructed on or off site. That really kind of cuts through a lot of stuff we've talked about. And I think that's a really nice wording. I don't know if you came up with that or whatever, but. Detached building or portion thereof
Well, I
constructed
just
on.
thought that would take care of a lot of the options.
I think it does. I like it. Joseph,
Quick question about that, though. I thought we were trying to move away from the terminology of single family or multifamily dwelling.
I thought we had.
oh, I'm sorry, I misread that.
Oh.
Dwelling single unit.
Single, okay,
I
that makes
probably
sense.
just,
No, it's crossed out, so thank you for the clarification.
Are we, so how about, so where are we? Should I just keep moving?
Yes.
Okay,
Unless we jump in.
okay, all right, well, so dwelling, expedited land use decisions, guest house. These all look really, like really good definitions to me.
Let's go back to expedited land use decision. Let's go up to that one in page 3.
Yes.
Okay,
So up above the middle of page 3, we have a new definition, expedited land use decision. This is a state language, and there's a lot of code for it now, and there's new code for it that happened this year that was not part of what we bid on in our proposal because it just happened this summer. And I thought the best thing to do in that case was to accept the definition that the state has and put it in there so that they could see where it came from. It comes from ORS 92 and ORS 197. And if somebody came to us and they wanted to do that, it would be time for us to refer ourselves and them to these state laws. And if they still wanted to do it after we read them, we would need to learn to use that state law. It has a lot of complications. It has some things you can take yourself out of. It's for all size of cities, but it wasn't given to us in time to really accommodate it or to study it or to see how it would merge in with our laws. So that's why it's in there.
okay, so you've made a note of it and it'll be there for,
Well, we'll know
looking-
where to find the information and
Yeah.
to refer them to it. And then if they still want to do something like that, we would probably scope it out with them and see how it would fit.
So Crystal, this has not been part of our code so far, correct? It's just been placed in there because of new state law, expedited
Well,
land use.
They've changed the state laws. There's been limited land use decision in the past, and I did on page 4. But the expedited one has a whole bunch of new sections about it. It's like quite a few pages. And I don't want to just throw it in there without understanding how we could use it or how it merges into our code. I think it would be better to just do it on a case by case.
Mhm.
It sounds like it's for larger subdivisions than what we would normally have. It doesn't mean we couldn't have somebody wanting to do a big subdivision, but it's just one of those things that they didn't really schedule their making of laws around our grant. So
Right.
it's kind of hard to just jump in and take it up at this point.
All right, then, we've got the guest house, we've got the healthcare facility, home occupation, limited land use decision, which you mentioned. Lot area, manufactured dwelling, that has been we've had to reword that one, I know. Manufactured home, mobile home. Mobile home subdivision, planned community, planned unit development. We've got a section on that. It's been cleaned up. Prefab structure, recreational vehicle. These are state laws we're just dropping into our code, evidently, that we have.
Yeah, every time you see a check mark there in yellow, it meant that I just double checked it over and over to make sure that that was what they wanted, because in a lot of these, all the different state laws have different definitions. but then it comes down to, there's one of them that we're supposed to use if they've put it into state laws that have to do with planning. And so they kind of take a lot of double checking because, first maybe I would use from the building codes, and then I would come across that it's already been incorporated in statewide planning, and so then we'd need to use that one. So just different things, you'll find little check marks, and those will eventually come out, but I just wanted to keep seeing them as long as we were working on it.
On recreational vehicle, the definition, I think you meant a vehicle with or without motor power?
I think it's called motive.
Is it really motive power, IVE?
Probably.
Huh, what's motive?
It's more of a physics type
Ah,
Horses
term,
I've never heard of it.
or technical.
on trailer.
Okay.
So
This
then
is
we,
what I mean. I mean, things don't look right, and that's why I do the check mark, because I don't want to second guess myself and then do it wrong after I've done it right.
Joseph says it's, quotes, a source of mechanical energy.
Oh,
Could be a steam engine.
thanks, Joseph.
Okay, residential care facility, that was another one that was residential care home, residential trailer. And then right of review. Which
Right of review is another section. So,
is another
we
section.
don't have all the definitions in here. I only put the ones that we were messing with.
Great, thank you. Then the right of review part, and then the other little piece, that's item C, is one that we added, as I recall, in our discussion on what do you call it? Extensions of conditional use permits. So that's where that ended up. And then we'll start on the zones themselves. Residential zone 1R, which we've been through.
I have a question,
Yeah.
sorry. On number 8, you have residential care facility as an outright use in R1, which is, I'm wondering if that is, and I guess when you put 17.33, you mean it's subject to site plan review? I have 2 questions there. So would a residential care facility necessarily be an outright use in our R1 zone? I think it would be appropriate for R2, and
I think
there's a residential care home I think is appropriate.
I think the residential care, I think 1733 is,
And it refers to the site plan review.
Oh.
that's
It
a
does?
home where that's not like a major facility, like a rest home or a assisted living or something. This is a specific care facility where the state controls it, and they license it, and they actually decide how it's going to be done. And they have people in there that they're providing care to.
I understand that. It's 6 to 15 people. And I'm just wondering if it's appropriate to have that as an outright use in the R1.
I think this is
agree
one
with
where we,
R2 but
I don't think we have a choice, but I could,
can
you
you
want me
check
to
that
look
out?
that up?
Yeah, because I think that, when you have 6 or 15 people and your people coming and going, that changes the whole dynamic of the residential R1 area, parking and traffic. And so, I think it's, maybe appropriate for R2 on out.
Whatever it is, we don't have any say about it.
It could be the
So,
state.
but I will make sure that it is a state law.
Okay, thank
okay,
you.
thank you.
I appreciate that.
We'll check.
We'll check.
All right. So then those are that was the outright uses, then we have conditional uses. Lot size, which is not changed.
In the planned unit development, I didn't realize we had agreed that that would be an R1 conditional use permit. I mean, conditional use permit essentially says they get it, they just are under the conditional use permit process. We can't deny conditional use permit, it's my understanding.
Not on the fact that it is
Yeah.
the use, correct?
Right. So I wasn't aware that we had agreed to allow planned unit developments in the R1.
Most of these are already, if you, see, when you look at the, if the wording is not capitalized, it's not new.
So I think probably
See,
most of the,
we had residential care home and residential care facility. We've had it in here for like probably around 20 years, and the same with the, I believe the planned unit development has been a conditional use in the R1 ever since the ordinance was made. So this isn't something new. That, I mean, I'm not saying that makes it right or wrong. I'm just saying that this is not something that we discussed.
Right. And going back to the residential care facility, I mean, if we find that we don't have to have it and it could have an impact more than maybe a planned unit development, go through process in single family homes or whatever. So I still would like to find out about that, just because it's been in for 20 years. We haven't done it yet. I don't think we have a residential care facility in an R1 area. So we wouldn't have anybody opposing that.
I think with regard to the planned unit development, a planned unit development is how you develop land. It's how you make a subdivision. It's how, like my subdivision and the subdivision next to me, those were all planned unit developments. So the critical, for me, the critical piece is there has to be
Condition.
5,000 square feet for each dwelling.
Right.
And that's what keeps it residential.
I understand that.
So I
Don't have a problem. I mean,
have a problem.
that's more palatable than the residential care facility
Yeah.
in my mind,
Yeah.
because that's a business in the R1, and that can impact when you have people coming and going.
Yeah,
So
this-
I'd really like to
Well, I don't
check.
think the state sees it that way. They don't see it as a business. They see it as a home for people that need somebody to take care of them.
Well, and I agree. We all might be in one day, but
Okay, well, she's going to check
she's
on
gonna
that.
check on
So
it.
let's
go forward.
set that aside and move on.
Thank you.
So I just had a question about the lot size in a planned unit development.
Yes,
Does it have to be a 5,000 square foot lot?
for each dwelling.
It seems like
The-
I've seen planned unit developments with smaller lot
Yeah.
sizes.
The equivalent. It's the equivalent of the lot size.
So it could be a 10,000 square foot lot. The houses might be close to one another, but there's still 5,000 for each house. So if you got a hill and you got 10 acres,
No, I get that, but there's places in here where we're talking about smaller lot size.
but that not in R1.
Not in R1.
Okay.
That's a good point.
We went through.
These are tricky little things.
Well, that could be if they came to you for a cottage residential in an R1.
Then it might require a conditional use permit
Mm.
or a
It will.
variance.
No, I don't think there's nothing under 5,000 square feet in R1. We talked about that at an earlier meeting. We could be good. Where does it say that? It says that on here somewhere. Lot size.
Yeah.
For uses other than a mobile home park, the minimum lot area shall be 5,000 square feet.
Right.
So whether it's 10,000 square feet and the houses are closer than whatever, I mean, they might be close, but,
Mhm.
and that is the advantage of a planned unit development, is to be able to do that, to work that in.
Right.
And that would be a conditional use. Even then, it would still be a conditional use. But that's how, but yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on R1? Then next one would be residential zone 2R. Designed to be applied to residential where higher density is appropriate.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Under here, we have residential care facility as an outright use in R2. But then down below, it says healthcare facility, residential care facility, retirement facility as a conditional use. Do we want to put it in?
Where is that? What?
It's under B on
I'm
page
not,
8.
I've been looking for this other stuff. What section are we on?
We're in the R2, section B, item 7, I believe you're saying?
Yeah, 7 and 4. We have residential care facility listed as an outright use, and then down under conditional use, you have residential care facility. You have it in 2 places.
That doesn't sound good, does it?
Well, just pointing it out.
Yeah, that's an anomaly.
So.
Where is that? Okay, I see it. Yeah. That would be, yeah. Okay, I'm going to cross that out for now and look up and see what.
Where it needs to go.
Good.
Which one are you crossing out? 4?
Line 4.
Residential care facility under 4 for now.
It's redundant.
Just because I think that I was possibly doing that wrong, but that's what I'm going to look into.
So that's part of the answer for the one in the R1. It's the
Right.
same thing.
I have a question. Would you want to have after that, they would be subject to 17.33, a site plan review for a residential care facility?
We can't do that. The state doesn't allow us to. If you look, I think, if you look back at the definitions, I'm going to look right now.
The only reason I said that is on the next page, under outright uses, you do have people, units have to be in compliance with 17.33, which I believe you're referring to a site plan review. I
We
could be
are,
wrong.
the difference is that some of these things that the state requires and has required for a long time, they did it because nobody wanted anything except houses that they understood and not several people being cared for or up to 15 or whatever it is in a neighborhood. And so there was no place for people to live when they needed care. And so they took the responsibility for these homes, and they have laws, and everything in that home follows those laws. And then they forbid the local people, we have the same thing in some other sections, from adding a lot of requirements or adding requirements to those uses. I mean, like at one time, they were totally in charge of childcare facilities so that we couldn't even suggest parking or anything like that.
Appreciate it.
Right, like group homes. Group
Yeah.
homes, handicap.
Yeah.
They're like residential care.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to look that
I'm
up
going to look that up. Thanks.
and give us the right thing to do. Thank you. Anything else on that section? And we had so that was R2 or 2R. And then 4C, the commercial zone. Any notes there?
One thing I want to point out, everything that is a conditional use has rules that should have rules that fit it in the conditional use permit. So that you go to the conditional use permit 1732, and if it's a conditional use in here, you should find the regulations for that in 1732. If it's a use permitted outright and it becomes a larger use of more than 2,000 square feet and it's not residential, it should go to site plan review by either the staff or the planning commission if it has a new structure. Not if it's just a use in an existing building.
Okay. So we've got conditional uses. And the industrial zone, 5I. Oh, there was a question on that. That Crystal had on item 4, uses permitted outright, B4, hotel or motel, and she writes, hotel or motel were in this industrial zone previously, is it the appropriate location? So that's a question she's asking us. I don't see any reason why not to allow it.
Someone wants to build a motel or hotel in an industrial area. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal. We allow home occupation, and
Yeah.
so I don't see why that would be conflicting.
The only thing I can think of is if it took space that an industrial use wanted to come in and use, but I don't think we have a big need for that. I think we have more of a need for housing than
Right.
anything else.
And hotels probably support more of our
Yeah.
tourism,
Yeah, it's
economy.
it's the kind of business that our town is, got some attraction for, is tourism.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So you
I
guys
say-
think that's okay? You think the hotel motel is okay there?
But didn't we say that we have just a very small sliver of industrial space last time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that
it's
if
very
we
small.
don't leave it open for industrial and we're taking it over with other kinds of motels, hotels, are we limiting ourselves with regard to industrial companies?
Well, there's nothing in there now, and it backs up to a residential area. It's right there off of Port Orford Loop.
it's off of the
Paradise, wasn't
Paradise.
Paradise
Yeah.
Point
Loop. Yeah.
Road.
Point.
Yeah.
And it is small, but I don't,
it? We had that discussion before about limiting it to
Yeah.
industrial because it was so small. And as an invitation to industry, should it be interested, to leave it open for that.
I don't know. I just disagree. I think we should allow it if we're going to allow some of this other home occupation and,
Yeah, and I kind of see that this is kind of the industry of the future. That's is kind of that's how I deal with it in my own mind, because I do have the same feeling that, if we have an industrial area, it's a place for industry. And
Mhm.
industry is kind of the thing of the past in a lot of the senses that most of the industry that's done now could be done in the 4C. It isn't like they're going to put up
a big
rock
plant,
crusher.
any kind of manufacturing plant.
So, yeah, so I mean, we could vote on it if we're not all thinking it's an okay idea.
Well, I'll go along with,
How many acres is that?
It's pretty small. You want to see it?
That's a good question.
I just don't remember how many acres it was.
It's not very big.
Of course, I'm terrible at.
What kind of what would be classified as an industry that,
Would want that.
Paper mill.
a paper mill?
any kind of wood,
Wood products.
products, I would think.
I think a wood shop would be permissible in the commercial zone.
Yeah,
You're right.
there is one already in the commercial
It's
zone.
right here.
Mhm.
See,
Yeah.
it's right in here. It's this little piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's surrounded.
Did you
by-
run-
And it is surrounded sort of by, there's residential here. But this is, 5,
Where
6.
that guy-
Looks like 8 or 10 acres to me.
two back.
It's probably somewhere around there.
I mean, I've got a picture of it right here.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the same picture, just trying to get a number to go.
You want to see it here, Kel?
Well,
It's at 5I.
in any case, a hotel is not going to be very big.
No,
It's not going to take up, it's not going to overwhelm that area.
Well-
That- Okay, shall we say yes and move on? All right, thank you. And then let's see, conditional use permitted. Then there was a question, recreational vehicle park. Should this be permanent dwelling use or not here at all? This is up to the planning commission for recommendation.
So we didn't have anything about a recreational vehicle park in that zone. As you can see, it's dark. I mean, it's bold.
Yeah,
So it's just a question. It's not even a suggestion. I just was trying to figure out now that it was housing, now that it could be housing, if you wanted it there.
that's a little harder one for me, since I think that an RV park would probably take up more space. That's the only reason, but I don't really know. I mean, if it hasn't been there, maybe we should not mess with it.
Well, you can see it's new, so we can take it out easily.
Well, for instance, and it doesn't take a park, it says recreational vehicle temporarily used to relieve hardship. In Talent, off of Highway 5, when they had the Bear Creek fire down there, they had several spots that were designated to put mobile homes for people to stay in temporarily until their homes were rebuilt or until housing was rebuilt for them. So could this then, under that definition, be used for something similar?
it could be.
Oh, yeah.
Good point.
So in that case, would we want to leave it in there then?
Was that temporary housing or was it permanent?
It says temporary. No, you mean the one in Talent?
Yeah.
No, it was temporary.
Okay.
there. But
But
it's
for
not
a
to
year.
say they didn't convert some of it afterwards.
Right,
But the intent was their travel trailers and such.
right.
And they actually gave some of them away to the people who occupied them so that they could continue to use them on their own property.
That's an interesting, an emergency kind of
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could be used, that's a very public service kind of a use.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it is temporary, so.
Well, and even if, yeah,
Even if it weren't. I mean, those
Maybe
You
people,
guys have it in all your residential zones, but you don't have it in the zones that allow residential. So I don't know if that was a mistake at one time or if they just didn't want it there.
you say it wasn't allowed in the zones that allow residential? What? I didn't hear
It's
that.
always been, you'll look back and you'll see in your residential zones, it says that you can have a recreational vehicle temporarily as a conditional use for a hardship.
Oh,
You see
yeah.
it in the R1 and the R2, but you didn't have it in the, I think you might even have it in, you don't have it in the 5I, and I'm not sure about the 4. I was going to look at the 4C.
Mhm.
I would think there would be less resistance to having numerous recreational vehicles in an industrial zone than a residential zone, which is what happened again over in Talent, is there were numerous recreational vehicles, and that might be more likely to happen in this type of a zone.
I guess I would be in favor of a recreational vehicle park.
I can't see any reason why not to.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone wants to build one in an industrial area, and then
And well, and it's called growth. I mean, it's not a bad thing.
Joseph, you had a comment?
Yes,
Um,
Joseph.
So doing just a little quick calculation, not counting the ODOT right-of-way that's along the highway, the industrial zone is approximately 16 to 17 acres. It's only 2 lots, and one of the lots is split between industrial and controlled development zone, which is very limited in what it can do.
Okay.
I still think that we could do a recreational vehicle park there.
Yeah. Anybody not in favor of a recreational vehicle park?
I'm not in favor of it, but we're talking a temporary
Mhm.
recreational park.
Well, Commissioner Lawton was talking
So,
temporary.
Mhm.
but I guess if somebody came and said we need to put up a temporary recreational vehicle park, that would have to be reviewed because it's a conditional use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any recreational vehicle park would be
Conditional.
conditional use.
And if they wanted to do a permanent one, it'd still be a conditional use.
Okay, Crystal, I think we're leaving it in.
In the 5I.
Yes. And then, let's see, I have something here. Okay. Well, the recreation vehicle temporarily used to relieve hardship is actually in that area too. And then PUD is in there, which has been in there. Marine activity zone. No change. Shoreland overlay zone. No changes except for definite, just for the wording we're using new wording. Battle Rock mixed zone, 10 MU. And then we have the child care facility, which we're required to have. We have the residential care facility, which will include the question that Crystal's asking, looking up for conditional use or not. And conditional uses. And moving on. Anything on that?
I was just, wrote myself a note, of course. I just didn't know what part of 1716.050 was really relevant.
Which number are you on?
Oh, that's the home occupation code. Okay.
Oh, we've always had the home occupation laws, but we had to spiff them up and be a little bit more precise about home
Okay.
allowing certain
Yeah.
uses now under home occupation in the
Right.
state.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
Okay?
And I thought
Then-
we should have a sign off for it.
Yeah.
Patty and before Joseph and probably somebody before that was permitting them when they seemed to fit the rules and maybe sometimes in error from what people are saying, or they just cropped up. I don't know. But now we have to be able to show that we've permitted them and we're going to have to, and they're done by staff. And so I added a few criteria and some expectations now that there's a state law requiring that.
Okay,
So you
so,
can tell by the words, the new ones are in bold, of course.
Mhm.
okay. And then we have our temporary prefabricated structures on page 18. And there's a question here about tie downs. And it seems like a tie down should be in place anytime
In Port Orford.
in Port Orford, especially in certain areas.
Yeah.
Temporary should be tied down to withstand high winds, yes. Okay, and then the natural hazards overlay. So we got an overlay zone.
So I'm just proposing that we move that. It's always been in the wrong place.
Oh, that moving it, yes.
Yeah, not that we're going to change anything in it. It's not
Yeah.
perfect, but the thing is, it's a huge zone with a lot of rules, and it's just kind of like an afterthought at the end of a
Mm-hmm.
section, and it probably should just be its own chapter.
Okay. Then we get ADUs, our favorite new thing.
And she has a question mark, 180 days / 360 days.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I'm thinking that the oh gee, the name is the site plan, the site
No, the planned planning clearance.
the planning clearance form, I believe, is a 180 day thing. So it seems like 180 days is the one we should use.
Is this the one we talked about though, where it takes so long to get through the process, Joseph, that maybe we should
That was
extend that out?
that was the conditional use extension.
Okay.
We already went all over that one, but this is a little different. This is a lot tighter parameters.
Time frame.
Yeah, and I think 180 days is
More than enough.
more than enough, as Joseph says,
Um,
in most cases.
And my only note on that is the only ones I've seen take anywhere near that long are two that I'm currently working on. And the reason they've taken so long is because I needed additional information from both applicants. So
Okay.
that's it.
Mm-hmm. And if the thing runs out, all they have to do is apply again, right? It's not like it's the end of the world or anything.
I don't even know if they would need to apply because we have an extension form. So
There you go.
Extension, yeah.
Okay.
they can get an extension for an additional year.
Does it say here that that's the case though?
Okay. Then let's start them at 180 days. The ADUs, yes, I'm liking all this ADU stuff. Moving on, unless we want to stay here, let's stay here.
On that 180 day and getting an extension if you don't, is that something that when you get that, you actually, it's worded in your application that says if you don't complete this in 180 days, you can file for an extension? Is that in the paperwork?
So what's in the paperwork is a write-in date that I write in, and it is actually, once it's been approved, it's 1 year. These applications that are in process, the only reason they are still in process after the length of time they've been in process is one of them needed a survey and one of them needed me to do some follow-up with the Department of State Lands. So it was just, like I said, additional information. Once they get it approved and get it back to them, it's a 1-year clock. And it's not in the language of the packet, but I am currently revamping the packet so I can get it in there.
Probably wouldn't hurt so they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll make a note to get that in there as well. Thank you for the recommendation.
One little question. This is on STRs. So and I know it's not here, but we don't have it. We don't say we allow it in all zones. We say what we restricted in the residential zone. So it's implied that STRs can be in all zones, or is it just, I'm just wondering.
Say that again. I
The
didn't
short-term
understand.
rentals, we have restrictions in the residential,
Right?
right? We're silent on them. There's nothing in our code that says you can have them here or you can have them in, we just know there's no restriction in the other zones. We allow them in all zones.
Right.
Okay. Just want to clarify, make sure that.
Short-term rentals are as long as they follow all the rules,
They can go in any
they can
zone.
be, there could be as many of them as there want to be in any other zone.
That's what I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that that's. Okay.
Okay. Anything on ADUs? Well, let's get to planned unit development then. I've read through this a few times. It's complicated and it seems to all hang together. The long list of things to be included with the application, the following documents, which are pretty typical for, these things are all showing up again and again. Update plan, time frame. And then the findings. For approval. Conditional uses generally, page 24. Church, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. This section has been changed from the original. These all look pretty thorough to me, but for what I know. Manufactured dwelling park. Conditional use. We've been through this one.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, actually, that was a mobile home park we did. So the thing I noticed with a manufactured dwelling park is you still have to have one on a lot.
Mhm.
It's not like a mobile home park where you can put a number of them, which seems to be kind of the main distinction between the two.
Yeah.
Just talking out loud. Oh, I had a question on
So,
item 12 in the manufactured dwelling park. It says manufactured dwellings in a manufactured dwelling park shall include a water closet, lavatory and bathtub or shower, and a kitchen area containing a sink. I wonder if we should also say cooking facilities, because that seems to be one of the things that separates an ADU from a
right.
Mother,
guest house. Yeah. So I wonder if we should have cooking facilities there.
I think
Joseph,
that's what we meant, don't you?
I do, yes.
So I'm
Well-
gonna put a note on that.
Cooking facilities also containing a sink.
isn't a kitchen a place to cook?
Yeah, but if you don't say it.
Well,
Well, Joseph?
if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure we decided that the definition of a kitchen was that it included a stove
Yes.
or some other cooking
Oh.
facility. So I think it's
I don't remember.
implicit in saying it contains a kitchen with a sink that there's some way to cook food. Because it's how we defined it previously.
Okay, did we write that? Is that,
If I'm remembering correctly, we may have discussed it, but it didn't.
so that'll be in one of our definitions then, probably.
Well, we could look at the definition of manufactured dwelling and see what it says. I'm looking right now.
So a dwelling, Well, I'm
Means a
looking-
structure constructed for movement on the public highways that has sleeping, cooking, and plumbing facilities intended for human occupancy, which is being used for residential purposes and was constructed in accordance with federal manufactured housing construction and safety standards and regulations in effect at the time of construction.
okay.
So we already define it that way.
So we don't necessarily, so maybe we don't need the word kitchen. The word kitchen is what's throwing me off. I think the phrase kitchen area.
Yeah, so maybe we have more than we need in the site plan stuff. I mean, in the other definitions on page 27.
So we should have the same definition
Yeah, I kind of think so.
for the two of them. That's excellent.
So we could just say complies with the definition of a manufactured dwelling.
Yeah. Save the ink.
That makes sense.
And that way we wouldn't have any confusion between them.
Uh-huh.
And I expect that is how they get licensed anyway.
so I have a question on 14. The owner of the lot shall agree that any manufactured home that is removed from its foundation shall within 30 days either replace the manufactured home with another approved home or remove the foundation, Well, why is that? Why is there a 30-day limit on that?
It would be so that it wasn't just a derelict structure sitting there or parts of a dismantled unit. So for the neighbors, it wouldn't be good for the neighbors.
Okay, but even if it's removed, why does it have to be replaced within 30 days?
It doesn't, it just has to be cleaned up. Cleaned up or another one placed.
Either
Or
replace
either replaced.
the manufactured home within the approved or remove the foundation.
Right.
But would
Right.
any new manufactured home would use that same foundation?
Not
Or not.
necessarily. Could.
Who knows? If it was the same manufactured home, they would, but I think they're kind of all different. Although I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's just
Yeah,
a way
this
to,
is
the
something
way
I
to,
found in other people's stuff.
yeah, it's a way to keep the neighborhood looking good.
Either put another manufactured home on there or clean it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my only thought was if it's removed, why does it have to be replaced within 30 days?
No.
So I can understand removing it within 30 days, but
Must either
Or.
replace the manufactured home with another approved home or remove the foundation, manufactured home, accessory structures and other structure. They have a choice
within 30 days.
within 30 days, yeah.
So my only thought is they may be able to, within 30 days, remove everything, foundation, get it all cleared away, but, okay, I'll buy that.
So when they put in a manufactured home, when you see a foundation, it's not a foundation, it's a block wall that is actually a skirt that looks like it's a foundation.
Mhm.
And so if they take that manufactured house out, they have to partially remove all that stuff, break it down to lift the
Mhm.
home out of there.
Mhm.
So then you have piles of cinder blocks laying there that have to be cleaned up.
Got it?
But there's also a slab there.
Yeah, I know.
Which isn't going to be easy for somebody to remove, but
Yeah, they'll probably cover it over.
It doesn't say you have to remove the slab. Just have to keep it swept.
That dang slab.
put some basketball hoop on it.
Yeah, Joseph.
While we're looking at this, I'm a little confused by something because if you use ampersands, it could read, the owner of the lot shall agree that any manufactured home that is removed from its foundation shall within 30 days remove the manufactured home.
Either replace.
So we have a little English,
Yeah.
English
Yeah.
teacher comment here.
Yeah, I think that, with
Okay.
like it's the cinder block thing where it could be the debris of the removed home or some similar thing, but
Oh, either be.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have the owner shall agree, either replace, that they shall either replace. Yeah, we need another clause there. Any manufactured home shall agree. I mean, I can straighten that out, but I don't think I want to do it right now. We know what we want to do, though. I think that's almost a Scrivener's.
It's a language thing.
It's a language thing.
Yeah,
We're in agreement. We'll fix it. I'll put a star by that because we're going to go through this and we'll have a final draft of this next month.
Ooh,
We can talk about again.
Thank you.
will it be without all the italics and everything?
I think it's still going to have everything. I think it's still going to be, I think we're going to keep that for the city council.
Okay.
I think they're going to need it too. Okay,
Joseph had another.
fix.
I was just gonna say real quick, if we wanted one without the italics and the corrections, you provide a copy that has that. So you'd have a clean copy and then one that shows the revisions. If the commission thinks that would be useful at this time.
Yeah, it just,
I think as when you're doing new code, you're required to show
Oh.
show your bold in the new words and show the old words so that people can look and determine what you're changing.
Okay.
it's just easier when we're finally going through this over and over and over again with all the other gobbledygook in here. It's not as clear reading it as it would be if we had just the words we're going to stick
I
with.
agree. I can't wait to see it when it looks good in the,
I can't wait to see it next
I
June.
did.
We're all done with this.
To clarify, I did mean, and I could provide a clean copy in addition to the one that has the revisions, not in replacement of the one that has the revision.
That would be great.
If Crystal says that that's okay, I'm still not sure on.
I think Commissioner Lawton would really like that.
I would really like that.
I think we should
You
do
mean
that.
to take this it up without the changes?
I mean, have two copies, one that shows all of the changes and then one that would basically be if all of the changes had been applied, that's clean, that doesn't show the old code.
Right.
We can talk about this more
Cleaned
when
up.
we're not in.
I don't know. I've never seen, I mean, it's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that it seems to me like it takes a lot of time and energy, and I didn't know you had that. that kind of time to do that. I mean, I certainly don't.
Yeah, me.
I'm
me
looking
too.
at several
That might
weeks of
be
working
fine.
on something.
Okay, well, let's move on.
You know what I could do, Joseph? The old, before we had all the computers where you cut it out and you paste it on the paper. Maybe I could go through and do that.
That's what she wants you to do. And then use carbon paper and write it all out too, right?
Yeah,
There
we
you
can
go.
mimeograph it.
We can mimeograph it. Okay, we're moving on. I'm sorry. Okay. We are at recreational vehicle park. Wow, we know this one. I had actually marked. Oh, there's a word missing. In number 1, site plan and criteria, letter A, plan review and construction of RV parks shall comply with Oregon laws. Should probably say laws, period, or code, Oregon code,
Oregon Development Code or
something like that. There's a reference missing though.
in accordance with.
Yeah. Or statute.
Well, down below on B, it says state building codes.
Yeah,
Oregon's state codes.
or state revised statutes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's true. That's
well, we've got a note of that.
Actually, Oregon building codes is what we're talking about.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
I think I might have started that sentence and then given it its own wording. Thank you.
Okay, so that's RV park, and we've been through this thing. We kind of came up with this ourselves. Pat ourselves on the back. Moving along. And then cottage cluster, approved through a planned unit development. And they are not to be vacation rentals.
Right.
Subdivisions, building features. Then we have our friend time limit on a permit or conditional use permit approval, which we sweated bullets over. And then the new section on appeal. And then the revocation of conditional use permit, which we also suggested. It's nice to see this stuff in here. Then site plan review. Right of zoning, site plan preparation, and planning commission site plan review procedures. So. Right of zoning. Site plan review is in the yellow, site plan review is to determine compliance with city requirements, is not subject to quasi-judicial hearing. On A of that, it says staff have responsibility for carrying out the site plan review for single unit and duplex residential to include non-discretionary decisions. Is that clear? I circled that it was.
Well, that's the definition of a quasi judicial thing, is that it becomes a discretionary hearing, a discretionary decision. In other words,
Oh,
Doesn't
Joseph
have
and I are not supposed to make those decisions because they have discretion, and you guys are the only ones who are allowed to have discretion.
okay. They have, because they have a right. Yes, okay. All right. Footprint. And then the 1733-050, site plan preparation for planning commission review. So so anything over, as I understand it, anything over 2,000 square feet that's not a single or double occupancy residential, anything over 2,000 square feet, it gets kicked to the planning commission for review. And I noticed here that it says the applicant has, so in 050, site plan preparation for planning commission review, the applicant has responsibility for preparing a site plan which may include more than one sheet to comply with the requirements. Site plan review for planning commission, it says decision, but I don't think we can say decision. I think we just need to, because we can't make a decision unless it's quasi judicial, as far as I
Say
understand. We
review.
can make a recommendation, we can review it.
Yeah.
We can review it with the city and say, look, this is what you guys need to do. But we can't it's not like a hearing where we make a quotes decision.
So just put review instead of decision.
I would put review instead of
Yeah.
decision. And that would clean that up. And I looked through our handbook, and that was where I arrived at too. So did you get that, Crystal? So where it says planning
Yeah, I
commission?
agree with that.
Okay, thank you. And then it tells us about all the things that have to happen.
I have one question.
Yes.
Are we going to determine a fee schedule is needed for planning commission review? Where do we get that fee? Are we supposed to come up with it?
The city council has to come up with new fees for a lot of these things.
Okay, I didn't know if that was an
This is
overview.
just a note to let them know and let us know that, we're not done with this just because we adopt it. So it probably needs a 6-month chilling period or something while we get things ready.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
And this is a really complete list, all this huge
I think
list.
we should say considerations on here somewhere. Site
For
plan preparation for planning commission.
Consideration.
Well,
Consider.
Instead of review.
They're not something we're requiring them to have each one of these because they don't apply to everything. So I'll figure out a place we can put that word considerations. It might be the title. Site plan review considerations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where I.
And
okay,
I
so
might
there's-
even put this in chart form so that it could be almost used like a checklist or a place to put notes or something like that when we go through this, because these are for outright uses, permitted uses, but we're just looking for any requirements that they need to deal with that the city already has.
yes.
So they come to you and they've decided they're going to do a motel or something, and because we don't we realize where the ingress and egress is going to be. We understand that they have themselves plugged into the sewer right. I mean, there's just a whole host of these things, as you know, on a site plan. And when we go through this review, we look for those things and discuss it with the people that come to us and say, where are we on this? And we may find some things missing that they have to take care of, but it doesn't kick them, down the road. It just brings it to their attention, and then they bring it back probably to the staff and show that they've done that or found that or something like that. It just
Okay.
puts, you guys become the eyes and ears for the city. And I'm not entirely sure how we do this because most of the little cities your size don't have permanent staff. They don't have any way to do this stuff. They don't have permanent attorneys. I mean, that's just typical. And one of the reasons that I wanted something like this was so that there was more than just Joseph having to look at this stuff all by himself and deal with the engineers of these companies that come to you. Hopefully, you'll have some things built. And it's not to put anybody through the paces, but just to have a chance to focus on some of this stuff. And a lot of the little cities don't have anybody to do it. I mean, they don't even have a planning commission in some of these towns. And so they just do what makes sense. And that, I kind of think that's what we have to try to do, is to show that we're not trying to set up some quasi judicial thing that goes to LUBA for an appeal or something. It's not an authoritarian thing. It's more of a trying to come together on how these things can be done so that everything is taken care of.
Well, it certainly, the public is interested in these sorts of things. So I think you're on the right track.
They only get to weigh in ahead of time like they do at the council meeting on certain things. I mean,
Yeah.
they can see the site plan ahead. That's a public right. But they don't get to nudge you during your decision making. Or your
Okay,
review.
then. So after our list of all those things that they've got to check, erosion and drainage, et cetera, then we have the Planning Commission site plan review procedures, which says development exceeds 2,000 square feet, it shall go to the Planning Commission. And it may go to the Planning Commission if the city wants us to look at it too. Schedule how they do it. Planned unit development. This is the how they do it section of this. There's a how they do it section, and there's the criteria. We covered the criteria part. This is the how they run through the system. Anybody have anything on that?
So when we approve a site plan and it goes to the county building department for, to make sure everything's right, they don't, from my understanding, they don't come back and look to make sure that the developer is doing, it seems like there's a disconnect between the county and the city. If we establish a code or a procedure and they give us the site plan and we approve it, and they start to build something like a motel or whatever, I question whether or not the county building department that's coming out actually looks closely at the site plan as the thing's going up. In other words, who's gonna verify that the developer is following the site plan that he submitted.
We've talked about this before.
Well, the piece we talked about was, and the city council voted to have the plans brought back to the city so that we know what the plan is at the city
Mhm.
before they build.
Okay, we have that, but how are we?
How are we going to, who's the building
checking?
official
Which one
in
of
the
us
city?
is the guy that goes
It's
out?
gonna
there
be
or
the
gal
people that are,
to make sure that they're, you know. So
it would be the county, but yeah, the county, but uh,
I don't.
your point is that the county's not. Well, no, the county, are you saying that they would deviate from the plans that they were approved to build
Maybe,
with?
well, for instance, if there's a certain setback from a property line or
setback.
something, and from what I've witnessed,
They don't look at setback.
nobody's taking measurements to property lines or adjacent, utilities or any of this sort of thing.
No.
It gets built, and then it's too late.
Well, you're a builder. In the past, has there been a fix? Has there been a correction for that? Or is there a way that?
Well, there's a building inspector that comes out and checks your setbacks, distances to fire hydrants, distances to the street, and before you
Your final?
even put in the foundation. Those sorts of things.
Oh, they don't do that here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no,
I've built in this town and through the county.
Would you please come up here to the microphone so we can, the former Commissioner Burnt, Pamela Burnt.
So I disagree because I think there are stages of inspection that the county has to do to fulfill a project.
They have to sign off on it.
Pardon me?
Don't they have to sign off?
Yeah, they have to sign off. So there's the initial foundation work, there's plumbing, electrical, and then, all of that is inspected before walls go up, drywall, all of that.
I also built in this town, and I know that property lines were not looked at. I could have been,
Mhm.
Yeah, that, you're probably right about
distance
that.
to the street was
Yeah.
not looked at. They came out and they did look at the formwork, which was, and I had the framing and all the stuff. But, and if it's a commercial project, we need to make sure that somebody's looking at those things. Because once it's
Yeah.
built, it's pretty hard to get them to move something.
So I also would question, is there communication between the city and the county once building?
During that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Typically
Joseph?
not, other than
I mean,
going both ways. But it's not like I'll have conversations with people at the county.
yeah.
It seems like the structural, the county deals with structure
Mhm.
and the city deals with, it sounds like the city needs to,
Well, planning, wouldn't
To-
planning deal with the site part of it?
Just the paperwork, we really wouldn't go out and,
They don't inspect, but
yeah, we wouldn't do an inspection, or we really wouldn't do like a property line, a delineation of where a property line is or where wetlands are, because I'm certainly not trained to do either of those things. I can give an estimate at best, and anytime I have been asked to do something like that, I always make sure to make it abundantly clear I am giving an estimate. In order to get a firm answer, you're going to need someone who specializes in getting those kinds of answers.
Right.
well, this same question came up. Someone asked me in the last few months if it was a question about a property line, and does the city do that very same thing? Is the city responsible for, if you build a house too close to the property line, is it your responsibility? No, it's a civil matter.
Mhm.
And your neighbors would sue you or whatever. But it seemed, I was going to ask, in your experience, is there the planning department, would the department ever measure that?
Well,
Or was that the building
the
department?
building inspector,
The building inspector was,
you bring in your site plan and the planner does look at it and signs off on it, as well as the fire department and everybody else.
Mhm.
But it's the building inspector's responsibility to make sure that you're not sitting on an easement or too close to the river.
or even building heights,
Yeah,
possibly.
yeah. Yeah.
On the sign offs, is there anything where the building inspector actually checks that that's been done correctly?
Mhm.
So if it hasn't been checked, then they haven't done it?
Or they forgot to sign it off.
Yeah.
In other towns, a lot of it's done electronically. So you might have that pink card that gets signed off physically, but
No,
it's signed off and,
Salem.
the city knows that it's been inspected.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and counties as well. Bigger counties.
So it would seem that that may be something that we are not going to be able to do anything with, other than maybe notify the county that they need to like check this stuff out. That should be a part of their inspection routine.
So,
I would think so too. Do we need to make a resolution and send them a note?
maybe that's another day.
I will actually think about that and yes.
This has come up in a couple of different instances relatively recently, and at least one of them, someone informed me that they had called the county, and according to the county, the building inspector had come out and measured and done the property, like said, here's where the property line is.
Oh.
But the guy said that that's what the county said, but they didn't actually do it, which I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think people have time to sit and watch their neighbor's property all day. So,
Oh, wow.
well, maybe here they do, but
Yeah.
it's a complicated issue. We are working administratively and trying to figure out some of these things to figure out the best way to resolve some of these issues we've been having.
Good.
Okay.
Well, keep us informed, would you?
And
I
we
will-
aren't the only city with this concern,
Mhm.
Yeah.
or the only county or anything.
I'm going to make a note here to think about a letter to the county.
I have a question. So I built 20 years ago. You obviously did it more recently. Do they still have, you have to keep your plans and their checkoff list on site
Mhm.
all the time?
Yeah.
So it's a paper trail, right? It's a manual thing.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, other jurisdictions are computerized, so a building inspector may come out there with his laptop, or when he goes back to the office,
Yeah.
he makes a note that he's inspected the foundation or framing or whatever.
Yeah, but it might not be noted on that document that,
Maybe not.
yeah, okay.
When I
Thank you.
remodeled my house, I had to, hey, wait, sign the card,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I wanted that. I wanted that signature on there.
Most of them do have, I forget what it's called, but it's you can sign in online and look at the progress of your inspections.
Right.
Okay, so anything else on the PUD stuff? Thank you, Pamela. On the final plat or any of that stuff? Or anything on any of this stuff?
Looks pretty good.
We had them give progress reports, but that's not the same. That'd be never mind. I was thinking how we had on the mobile home, that park,
Uh-huh.
he had to come
Right,
give us a progress report. He had to show
right.
that he had met this much of this.
And I think that's in the language of the conditional use.
Yeah.
permit, that we can
but not site
require that.
plan.
And he did that. That was awesome.
No, he did it.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that could be part of a site plan review.
Oh,
Just a thought.
anything else on any of these items? Crystal, I want to thank you for the tremendous job you've done on this.
I have a question.
Oh. Uh-oh.
So when we get the building plans, so we're talking about structures. When we get the building plans, wouldn't we be able to see if there was straying from the site plan to some degree?
If you could read the plans, if
Yeah,
someone
that's
was
the
here that
question.
could read plans.
Yeah, I don't know if I could, but I'm just saying.
We have a volunteer here in the community who could. He's sitting right here to my left.
And we have it on tape.
I'm happy to help out.
So that's a great question. That's a great question.
Because when we give the planning clearance, we're going to be saying the things that were part of the review, the site plan review. And then supposedly that gets carried on and when we sign off the planning clearance. But yeah, if we read it, that's our problem. Joseph's probably getting pretty good. I don't know.
He's probably pretty good.
I think I'm gaining some proficiencies.
Yeah.
I also like to think I'm fairly humble, so.
But it is the city's job. It is our job. I mean, it's in our benefit. It behooves us to do that.
Well, I remember one time, probably shouldn't be telling stories, but we were working in a subdivision. We saw a house going up and there's BPA transmission lines. And we thought, that house looks like that. They had the foundation pretty well poured, hadn't started actually building the house. And one day somebody from BPA comes out there and puts a stop work on this house. They had to totally destroy the foundation and move it over like 10 feet because they were just a little too close to these power lines.
Oh, yeah.
So there's other things that, I don't know if in Port Orford you got this problem, but there might be easements that somebody thinks it's their property line, but they're actually sitting on a utility easement or something.
Does the city sometimes require a survey? Well, everything is platted.
It's on.
Well, we
on
would
plat-
have to have a survey for these kind of site plans over 2,000 square feet. They can't just send an engineer in and start playing with what we have on the lot lines on the assessor's maps.
Yeah.
But we don't have a survey for every single house or anything.
The closest thing I can think of is in our building code section. It doesn't say you need a survey, but it says you need to survey 2 points that had been surveyed on the lot from which to measure. Although recently because we've had issues, we are looking at revising that potentially to be, you need a survey from sometime in the past so we know that where the pins are and you aren't just guessing, saying, well, my neighbor's fence is there, so that's where the property line is, or something similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe we should require surveys for these things that are non-residential that are above 2,000 square feet. I mean, that's logical. You would assume that people would want that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Pamela?
may I bring up another thought? I know before digging, one has to have marks, the utility lines marked. So we don't really have any of that in our code, do we? Is that
Go
crucial thing. If we're talking about property lines, should we also be talking about utility lines?
Well, they're marked on the plats. The
Right?
plats of the subdivisions and they're laid out to scale.
Right.
So if there's an easement, like I have an easement, I have a flag lot. So there's an easement. I've got 2 easements on my property. I know right exactly where they are.
Yeah.
So
You
they're
would-
shown if it's been platted. And it,
Even in residential, you should have pins, a property corner identified.
Right.
And you can run a string down there. So when the building inspector from Gold Beach shows up, then he can measure back to the foundation to make sure that you're good.
Okay.
But I don't think it necessarily has to be a survey, because if if you can find the pins, you should be good to go.
Right.
What if you can't find the pins?
Then you better get a survey.
Right. Yeah.
Or you risk
We may
building
need to
and
have
getting
that in our
sued.
code.
Or what?
You risk building and getting sued if you
Right.
encroaching on your neighbor's property.
right. Well, we have another couple items if we're done with this.
And it looks like Crystal's ruminating.
Crystal, are we ready to move on or,
I'm
Are you-
fine. I'm just
Oh.
listening and thinking.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, if no one objects, I'd like to move on. We have a really important thing coming up.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do. I see it right here. Planning clearance is approved since the last meeting.
There has been one that has been approved. It is the demolition permit for the Idaho property that had the fire earlier this year. I got the rest of the information I needed, so I was able to finish
Oh.
processing that.
Yeah.
Once again, that is just for demolition. It is not for them to begin rebuilding anything.
Yeah, I went by there this afternoon. It looks like they're tearing it down.
Yeah, I've noticed they're starting to get it cleared up a little bit. And then, as I said previously, I have 2 planning clearances / building permits that are currently in the works. Once again, we don't issue the building permits. We just have to give the approval on the planning clearances so they can go request the building permit. And then I have an update from the CUP 2302, the RV park. Another one, it just came in today. Mr. Clark finished submitting the plat with the county. So that's been signed off on, and the lot merger should be done. He even sent us a redone deed from a title company, which I will forward on to Crystal when I get in tomorrow.
Can you tell me where those 2 building permits were issued and do they have water?
So the 2 building permits have not been issued. They are in process. I'm still processing them. One of them is on D Terrace, and the other one, I don't remember the location. I remember the property owner's name. So I will email you those 2 locations
Okay.
tomorrow.
And about the water.
Yeah, and I'll double check on the water.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
And then item B, application for appointment, Greg Thielen. His application is in here. Any discussion on that?
Do we think we have enough information on the person here? I move we approve the application.
Oh, I know him a little bit.
I hear he does music.
He does.
I hear he's a hippie.
Well, he's not. Okay, well,
Do we need to vote on?
let's vote on this.
We need a second.
We have to second. I second it.
Oh, you seconded it? Okay.
You got a second.
Commissioner Lovendall,
Yes.
Commissioner Boydston,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawton.
All right.
I'm a yes. Thank you for your support. Oh,
We might also, just for the sake of formality, now also re-elect you, or if anyone else wants to be the chairperson of the planning commission.
that happens in January.
January.
Oh, okay, so we'll make sure to do it at the first meeting.
I got it
next
on my
month.
list.
All right, thank you for that.
Public considerations. Any public people here would like to talk about anything? If not, January 14th at 3:30, is that a good time for everybody? I assume that's the second
It is
Tuesday.
the second Tuesday.
Okay, then let's call that the next meeting. And then we've got a workshop February 11th, and that would be the regular time. Was that also the second? February 11th is the second Tuesday. So we're set for January and February.
Oh, and
Yes.
you, me, and Crystal have been talking about doing a workshop, and I don't know if it came up after I made the agenda or if I just forgot to put it on there, but we should also say when the workshop is and make sure that the commission can be there for that.
Yes. So
Another one?
December 17th,
I believe so.
1 o'clock. Crystal and Joseph and I are going to meet in the green room of the city council. We're going to go over this very thing. We're going to look for typos. We're going to look for anything that's weird. And make sure that it looks good before it goes to the final draft. In the final draft, we're still looking at, it's still a draft. Even in January, it's a draft. It's a done draft, but it's a final draft, but it could still be changed. But yes, that'll be December 17th, 1 o'clock, City Hall. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I skipped over, I was so excited about getting re-upped here that I forgot the other business. City planner comments.
I have no comments.
Planning commission comments.
No comment.
I've got no comments. I want to thank you all for your really hard work. This has been really complicated. It's going to stay complicated for a while too, I think, but thank you so much. And thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Pam, for coming.
Yeah.
Nice to have someone.
This meeting is adjourned.